IELTShelp.com for general. Now listen carefully. Let's begin.
This recording is copyrighted by 2 Think One Solutions Inc. and World ESL Tutors. You will hear several different recordings and you will answer questions on what you hear. There will be time given to read the instructions and questions, and you will be given a chance to check your work. The recordings will be played only once. The test is made up of 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1. Listening Section 1. You will hear a conversation between 2 women as one of the women registers her daughter for nursery school. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example. This time only, the conversation relating to this question will be played.
Good afternoon, Monterey Primary, Jane speaking.
Hello, my name is Diane Johnson. I was hoping to register my daughter for nursery school at Monterey Primary.
Of course, Miss Johnson. Would you like to register your daughter for full-day nursery school, or half-day, or full-day plus after-school care?
Oh, just the half day. I don't think Matilda could handle a full day away from home just yet.
The woman says she would like to register her daughter for half-day nursery school, so A has been indicated for you. Now we begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good afternoon, Monterey Primary, Jane speaking.
Hello, my name is Diane Johnson. I was hoping to register my daughter for nursery school at Monterey Primary.
Of course, Miss Johnson. Would you like to register your daughter for full-day nursery school, or half-day, or full-day plus after-school care?
Oh, just the half day. I don't think Matilda could handle a full day away from home just yet.
So your daughter's name is Matilda Johnson?
Yes, let me spell it for you. The first name is Matilda, Matilda, and the last name is Johnson, but it's not the common spelling. It's spelt Jonson. My husband is Swedish, which explains the different spelling.
Right. And what is Matilda's date of birth?
She was born December 25th, 2006.
So she was born at Christmas. That is incredible.
Yes, she was an incredible present to get for Christmas. It certainly was the most memorable Christmas I've had.
Yes, I would imagine. Okay, so now I need Matilda's personal education number, which she should have received in the post recently.
I don't remember receiving such a letter in the post.
It would have come from the Department of Education, and they always post things in yellow envelopes. You don't remember seeing a yellow envelope in the post?
In fact, I do, but I didn't open it. My husband did. He didn't mention anything about a personal education number. Now he's away with work and I won't be able to reach him.
Well, we can retrieve the number. I'm going to need your national insurance number as well as your husband's. I'm going to need your husband's name as well.
My husband's name is Eric, with a K instead of a C on the end. His last name is Johnson, of course. His national insurance number is DF987745W, and mine is KL409115N.
You now have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 6 to 10.
Right. Okay, let me see here. Alright, here is a personal education number. I'll give it to you now so that you can write it down for future reference. It is T56340192.
Just to make sure, the first character is T as in Thomas.
Yes, and this letter in front of the number shows what region the child is originally from. The T in this case refers to Tyne and Wear.
That would be correct, I'd imagine. Matilda was born in Newcastle, which of course is in Tyne and Wear.
Okay, So we have all the information about Matilda that we need. She is now registered for half-day nursery school in September. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. I was wondering what sort of training your nursery school teachers have.
That is a very good question. Each of our teachers has, at a minimum, a 2-year diploma in early childhood education. Many of our senior staff have bachelor's degrees in education in addition to the 2-year diploma, and our departmental head, Miss Janet Roth, has a postgraduate certificate, bachelor's degree and diploma. Do not worry, Miss Johnson, your daughter Matilda is in very good hands.
That makes me feel a lot better. Can you tell me when the first day of school is, and also will there be an orientation day for new students and parents?
The first day of class is the 5th of September, and yes, we do have an orientation day. It takes place on the 3rd of September from 9 to midday. Parents and children are strongly encouraged to attend.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. Take some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Listening section 2. You will hear a recording of a university campus tour. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully to the interview and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you are here for the university campus tour, you are in the correct place. There are 2 purposes for this tour. For prospective students, you get to see the campus where you may be studying in a few months, and you get to learn some interesting information which may convince you to look favourably on our university. For parents, you get to learn what life is like at this university, so you know where you are sending your kids off to this autumn. Before we start the tour, I'd like to give you some background information. This university was originally opened in 1686, although from 1745 to 1805 it was shut down due to a lack of funding. The university is composed of 23 buildings which were built in one of 3 periods. There were 4 original buildings in 1686, a dozen more buildings were constructed in the period from 1805 to 1815, and the final 7 buildings have been added in the past 10 years. So there is a fascinating mix of 17th century, 19th century and quite modern architecture. The first building we are going to look at is called the Prescott Building, named after the university's first Chancellor, William Chester Prescott. As you can probably tell, this is one of the university's original buildings completed in 1686. The building is actually quite unique in shape. It is approximately 40 metres long while only 8 metres wide. It also has these interesting circular areas attached to each corner, 4 of them in all. These 4 circular areas each house a large bell. None of the bells work today, however. As we walk in the door, I'd like to point out all of the beautiful Persian carpets on the floor. These carpets were donated to the university by a former student almost 150 years ago. It is very common for former students who have done well in life to give back to the university. Some give money, some give land, some give gifts such as Persian carpets. One former student even gave the university his pub after he died. By the way, that pub, which is located at the intersection of 3rd Street and Pine Avenue, gives students of the university a 30% discount. Now, if that's not a selling point for this university, I don't know what is. On a serious note, it is our outstanding education which makes our university a top competitor on the global front.
You now have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 17 to 20.
Before we go any further, are there any questions? No? Right then, next we are going to visit the university library. As you see in front of the library, there is a beautiful fountain which shoots water high up in the air. Once again, the funding for the fountain came from a former student, in this case a well-known artist. It was constructed just 15 years ago at the cost of £50,000. As we step into the library, I think what you'll notice at first is the fact there are no books. Indeed, there are no books at all on the entire ground floor. On the 5 upper floors, however, there are over 3 million books. The library's collection has been built over time through private donations, gifts from former students, as well as university purchases. There is also a special collections area where there are original works dating back to the year 1588. Next on our itinerary is a visit to the sporting facilities. Here at the university we have over a dozen different facilities for almost any sport you can imagine, ranging from football and rugby to tennis and squash to archery and cricket. Our rugby team has won the national championship 3 out of the last 5 years. As you'll see on your left is a famous wall where we put pictures of...
That is the end of section 2. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening section 3. You will hear a public forum discussion between the moderator and 2 contributors, Dr. Philip McPhee and Dr. Ron Tatum, both political scientists at the local university, talking about the nature of taxes in society. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
First of all, I would like to thank Dr. McPhee and Dr. Tatum for taking time out of their busy lives to spend this evening with us.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. McPhee, could you give us a little bit of the history of taxation?
Certainly. Taxes have been around almost as long as civilization itself. There are records of taxes being collected by Egyptian pharaohs approximately 5,000 years ago. It was customary to give 20% of your production to the pharaoh, and those who evaded taxes were severely punished.
Dr. Tatum, what are the reasons for taxes?
Well, there are essentially 3 major reasons for taxes. The first and most obvious reason is revenue. Governments need money, and taxes fulfil this need. The government then spends this tax revenue on investments that are good for society, such as healthcare, schools and roads. Funding the army would fall under this category as well. The second reason for taxation is for the redistribution of wealth. In simpler terms, this means taking money from the rich and giving it to the poor. Many societies do this out of a belief that it is the responsibility of the government to look after the poor people in society. I'll let Dr. McPhee talk about the final reason for taxation, called repricing.
Thank you, Dr. Tatum. Yes, the third main reason for taxation is called repricing, and by this we mean changing the price of a product to a different, generally higher price. This may sound quite strange, but if you bear with me, you'll see that it makes perfect sense. In general, products are allowed to be priced in a free market. That is to say, whoever can provide goods for the lowest price is the most successful. However, there are certain types of goods that we don't allow to go to the free market. In many countries, these are goods like tobacco and alcohol. These goods are subject to a repricing tax, which is used to discourage people from using the product. Also, these repricing taxes help offset the future medical costs associated with the people who use tobacco and alcohol excessively.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
Very well. Do you favour higher or lower taxes?
I am a strong proponent of higher taxes. The reason for this is simply that it is easier to make money when you already have money. This gives a massive advantage to those people who may have inherited money or come from rich families, because money is so much easier to gain for these people if used wisely. Taxing them seems only fair and for the greater good. This compensates the poorer sections of society who really have little or no hope to gain financial success.
I understand Dr. Tatham's position, but one has to be wary of the fact that if taxes are too high for businesses, then those businesses will leave the country in favour of countries with lower taxes. Of course, it would be nice if we could legislate a worldwide tax structure, but this is simply not attainable. And I'm sure by the time it becomes attainable, companies will likely have opportunities to leave for another planet with more favourable tax structure.
Yes, you're right, Dr. McPhee. We must always be mindful of staying competitive. It is like a tightrope we must walk between compensating those less fortunate and being able to stay competitive in the market. Because if we fail to be competitive, then tax revenue will dry up, resulting in no money at all for the lower economic classes. So this is an extremely difficult balancing act.
Which leads to my next question. What is the future of taxation?
I believe you will see higher taxes in 50 years than there are today, just as we have higher taxes today than 50 years ago. We will need even more money for projects like high-speed transit, new roads, new technologies. Also, with an ageing population, medical costs could soar in the near future, resulting in higher taxes to support this healthcare system.
I think the future will be a lot like the present, walking the tightrope as Dr. Tatham mentioned. Where that takes us, I'm not sure. If I had to guess, I'd say higher taxes for the reasons Dr. Tatham outlined. However, another important variable to consider is whether free markets can really be allowed.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a lecture about English scientist Isaac Newton. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today we are going to discuss the life and achievements of the famous English scientist Sir Isaac Newton. Many consider Newton to be the most brilliant man to have ever lived, and many consider his achievements the greatest ever achieved by one man. Newton himself was not so sure, as he famously told his followers, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." While it may be true that he built upon the foundation of scientists before him, he still managed to see further than anyone else had, and to this day his accomplishments stand the test of time. Isaac Newton was born in England in 1643. He studied at the King's School in Grantham from age 12 to 17. After leaving school, his mother tried to make him into a farmer, but that was not going to be sufficient for young Isaac. A year later, in 1661, on the recommendation of one of his teachers at the King's School in Grantham, Newton was admitted to Trinity College in Cambridge, where he eventually became a teacher 6 years later. Newton is perhaps most famous for his work on gravity. A well-known story says that Newton realized the nature of gravity while he was sitting under a tree and an apple fell on his head. This story may or may not be true, but the underlying principle is valuable. Newton made the astonishing discovery that the same force that makes an apple fall to the earth also makes the earth revolve around the sun and the moon revolve around the earth. Until this time, scientists such as René Descartes and Gottfried Leibniz had believed that the planets moved in some sort of matter, something they called an ether. Newton demonstrated that no such ether was required. Descartes and Leibniz also had little explanation for why apples fall to the earth. Newton's theory accounted for this almost perfectly. During the 20th century, Newton's theory came under attack by the German physicist Albert Einstein, whose theory of relativity was said to replace Newton's theory of gravitation. This is simply not true. Einstein's theory is a landmark achievement in science, but it did not replace Newton's theory, it merely improved it. To picture this, think of a smooth ball, perhaps a billiard ball. In this experiment of the mind, Newton tells us that the ball is smooth. However, Einstein says that the ball has small imperfections, dents, cuts, and scrapes. Who is right? The answer is both of them. Newton is correct on a macroscopic scale. When we look at the ball from a distance, the ball is smooth. However, Einstein is correct as well. The ball does have imperfections. He is correct on a macroscopic and a microscopic scale. Another of Newton's important achievements is the reflecting telescope. Previously, Galileo had used lenses to construct his telescope, but Newton was the first to use mirrors in a telescope. Today's telescopes are almost all made of mirrors as opposed to lenses, which again speaks to Newton's brilliance. There are a number of reasons the mirror is an improvement over the lens in telescopes. First, mirrors do not warp as easily as lenses do, and by that I mean that lenses can lose their shape in hot or cold weather quite easily. Second, telescopes with mirrors take up less space because of their shorter focal distance. Third, telescopes with mirrors can be built far larger because the mirrors themselves can be built larger. An achievement of Newton's that must not be overlooked is Newton's discovery of calculus. Although the discovery was not without controversy, Gottfried Leibniz also claims to have invented calculus at approximately the same time. Nobody really knows the truth, but it is accepted that they discovered it separately. In any case, it was a brilliant achievement by both scientists. Newton died in March 1727, and his body was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey in London, in a famous above-ground tomb. He was 84.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Great! You have completed the listening section of the exam. You have checked your scores and now you have your raw score. Convert this raw score to a band score using the score calculator on the website. This URL is also in the video description below. Once you have identified your band score and your mistakes, it's time to check the transcripts at the back of the book to see why you made these mistakes. You can find the full exams in our premium IELTS courses. It's very important to review mistakes, figure out the reasons for these mistakes so you can make improvements in the future. Good luck the next time you sit your IELTS exam. For more video lessons like this one, and help with all sections of the IELTS, including original practice exams, a fully interactive course, and an app for your phone, visit and join our premium IELTS package at aehelp.com. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. And use the code LISTEN49 to get an additional 10% discount. Click the link in the description below. We are an IDP affiliate, a British Council partner, an IELTS test registration centre, and I'm a British Council agent. We have helped thousands of students pass their IELTS exams. Just listen to what this student has to say.
I got an overall score of band 7 on my IELTS. It is all because of aehelp.com and the help of Mr. Adrian, who helped me in my speaking as well as writing with his personal feedback, which helped me to improve my band scores with the half and 1.5 bands. It's awesome.
Begin learning for success. Join now. Subscribe to our channel. Click over here. Watch another video. Click right up here. And click our IELTS Hero to join our premium package and get access to all of our videos, practice exams, and a fully interactive course.